So let me tell you a mechanical approach to talking about strategies. When your conclusion is a conditional claim, set up conditional intro. Assume the antecedent of the conditional, derive the consequent, so that you can say, I've just proven that if I have S, then I have Q.
That's the, okay, I get it.
That's your strategic setup. So again, this is just what you do.
And you do S first? Or can it
No. But remember, all of these rules are truth functional rules. In other words, we know that a conditional's antecedent guarantees the consequent, right?
Yeah.
When what? The antecedent is true and the consequent is also true, right? We also know that the one way in which a conditional is false, when the antecedent is true, the consequent is false, the sentence is false. Example, if Pierce College is in Woodland Hills, then Pierce College is in San Diego County. True antecedent, false consequent, false claim. Yep. What else do we know? Now, so let's think about now our rule, right? We know that we assume our premises are true. That's just another way of saying let's accept as true. Here are our givens. So if we're gonna say that S is true, remember row number 1 of the truth table, Q has to be true for the conditional to be true. And we're saying that the conditional is true, right? The argument's valid. If the premises are true, the conclusion has to be true. So we say, let's assume I have S, I will derive Q, so then I can say, I've just proven if S then Q.
Yeah.
Okay, now, look at your premises. You know that you do what with conditional claims? When you're given a conditional, what do you know you do?
You break it down.
Dismantle it, break it up. There's one and one way only to break up a conditional. Conditional limb, which means you affirm the
Antecedent.
right. So, if Pierce College is in Woodland Hills, then Pierce College is in San Fernando, in the San Fernando Valley. Pierce College is in Woodland Hills, therefore,
It's in the San Fernando.
it's in the San Fernando Valley, right? The only way to Joe, come over here. The only way to dismantle the conditional is to affirm the antecedent. So you're going to dismantle, right? How are we doing? So far, so good?
Yes.
Now, remember we said that the only way to dismantle a conditional is if you have the antecedent. You don't have the antecedent, but what could you do? You can build this antecedent, which will yield this consequent, which will break up this conditional.
So,
Well, hold on just a sec, because Joe had barked over Natalia's question. Also, I want to ask you guys to hold on for just a sec. Let's pull stuff off to the side. Remember, sketch off to the side. Don't try it all, do it all in your head. You know that you've got P arrow Q. You know you want Q, but you need P to do it. P happens to be the consequent of the sentence R conjunction S, right? So you need R conjunction S in order to derive P.
So like get rid of?
Get rid of. Sure, you can think about it that way.
So it would be conditional or limb from 3 and 4?
It will be. All right, so we're pulling off to the side, pulling off to the side. So now, does everybody see that what I boxed up is what we need in order to dismantle? Does everybody also see that I can generate the antecedent? Why? Because look at 3 and 4. Okay, so line 5, R conjunction S 3, 4 conjunction intro, right? Then, so 3, 4 conjunction intro. And again, remember one of the things that we want to do is check off stuff as we use it. It'll just make it easier. Doesn't mean you can't reuse premises. Sometimes when you're done with a premise, so for example, if you dismantle a conjunction and you need only one of the conjuncts, as soon as you dismantle it, you're not going to use that conjunction again. Other times there are premises that are used multiply. So now we're in a position to pull down P, 2, and 5, conditional elim, and then, does everybody see? 1 and 6 gives us Q, again, conditional elim, and so 8, now we're back on our main line, and we have 4 through 7 conditional intro. Okay, so let me pause. Here's what I'm hoping is the case for those of you who, Kevin, can I pick on you?
Sure.
You have been really great about saying, here's where I'm lost, or here's where I get stuck, or lost meaning I'm not sure how to begin. What's your confidence level here now that you've been, because Kevin's been working this really hard. What's your confidence level?
It's a lot better, honestly. I feel like if I still have an issue, it'll still be negation intro, but I feel like I can still do it.
We'll work. All right, so what are you thinking?
Well, this one, I get these.
Good.
This one okay.
Yeah.
Even on tests, you had one. It was simple.
Good.
Oh, I was in there for probably half an hour working on one problem. Get away from me.
Joe, leave it. Joe, you.
It was the or.
It's so hard to
Okay.
see.
Okay, so I'm going to leave this on the board, and then we're going to come back to this because, like I said, we're going to move into the quantifier logic version of this proof. Okay, so now, Chris, I'm glad that you said, disjunctional limb is kind of your bête noire, right? So let's do this. Let's notice that we've got a disjunction, and let's also notice that when we have a disjunction, we will eliminate it, right? That's just what we do. Again, I'm taking the mechanical, not the conceptual approach, right? So you've got a disjunction, you're going to eliminate it. So my thinking is, knowing that you want this disjunction in your conclusion, why not set up, I don't know if this black is going to work. Oh, this is okay. Let's set up
Disjunct intro.
exactly from the elim, right? We're going to end up with R or S, right? And then from the other side of the disjunction, we're going to end up with R or S. I can envision, Raz, given what you've just said, that you'll notice once you dismantle this conditional, you'll have R, you introduce S. What are you thinking, Kevin?
Do you necessarily have to have R or S? Can you just have one of them and then do disjunction intro?
Oh, okay, so here, lovely, Kevin. So, what if it's the case that, so let's say you want R, don't erase anything you've written. Let's say you want R, you get out, disjunctional elimination R or S.
Right.
On the assumption that you can get R in each one of your you can get it in this subproof. But on the assumption you can get it in this subproof, then sure, that's a perfectly legit goal. So let's make this our goal. Okay, so I see what you're saying. I see why you said what you said. So you were thinking ahead. This will be shorter, right? But when we first write down our conclusion as the conclusion of each subproof, we're doing that with an eye toward reminding ourselves of what we're trying to achieve. Now, it sounds to me like you'd already worked it out in your head, so then you didn't need to do that. But if we haven't yet done that, right, let's, make that assertion of the conclusion instead of one part of the conclusion.
Professor?
And yeah, hold on just one second so I don't forget. So this, guys, right, is going to be disjunction elim, and then this will be disjunction intro. And Chris, I'm sorry, what are you thinking? Okay.
You just called me stupid.
What are you thinking, Rachel?
Kind of question for the other one because I was like getting confused, but that's all the stuff.
Right, so talk to me about line 5. Line 4 says, I have, not Q, therefore I have P. Now take a look at line 1 and take a look at line 5,
Contradiction.
contradiction intro. And then remember, we've talked about the meaning of the concept, but we're focusing on mechanics now. What is happening from 6 to 7?
Contradiction, elimination.
Elimination of the contradiction.
Why don't we put negation?
We don't need to, it's at line 1. It's given to us.
Oh yeah.
All right,
No.
8. Now, so as soon as we complete one of the subproof sequences, we've got part of what we want, or sorry, rephrase. We've got part of our conclusion. Now we're moving directly on into our next. So line 9, now we're going to use, remember we talked about
By
using premises
conditional.
repeatedly?
Or conditional limb, sorry.
Conditionally lim from 1 and what is it? 8.
Would-
Is that 3?
3? Oh, no, here we are at 8.
Oh,
Right.
okay, my bad.
You're good?
I was doing something stupid in my head.
No, that's okay. And then now we're at R, and then R or S.
But how did we prove that we had S on the first part from 4 to 7?
So you were, I think what Kevin was talking about happened while you were so generously writing the read on the board. Kevin said the following: hey, rather than having the
two of them?
rather than have the conclusion of the argument be the conclusion of each of your subproofs,
Mm-hmm.
you can save steps, 2 specifically,
Mm-hmm.
by simply deriving R, disjunction elim, then introducing the disjunction. I had originally said we could do this, so let's say you've got R, then you want R or S. So then this would be an extra step. This would be an
then
extra
you would
step.
have to do disjunction elimination for that?
This is the disjunction elim, right? So let's look at lines 3, 4 to 7.
So instead of doing that extra step, you did disjunct elim from 3?
Yeah, 3, 4 to 7, and 8 to 9. And then 11 is disjunction intro from 10.
Mm-hmm.
So do you guys want to cite and justify, or do you have it?
I've been citing and justifying as we go, but I'd be great
Okay.
to see if I'm right.
5 is conditional elim,
2 and 4.
2 and 4. 6 is,
Contra intro
contra-
5 and 1.
yep.
Contradiction elimination 6.
7 is elim 6 of the contradiction. 9 is,
Conditionally then 8.
8 and,
9.
1.
Or 8 and
8 and 1.
Yeah.
Don't forget your affirmation of your antecedent. And then you've already said that 10 gets you back out onto the main spine, right? Raz says, hey, we've got disjunction elim. Kevin gave us the shorter route, which is great. So how about this? When your conclusion is
And atomic or negation. Negation.
atomic or negation, you do
Negation intro.
negation intro.
Oh, yeah, I might have done the wrong one then. Oh, well.
That's all right. So, oops, sorry.
For a test,
So
it's
we
not.
assume, so remember, this relies, this indirect proof, as it's also known, relies on our understanding of validity, right? If the premises are true, the conclusion can't be false. Well, let's pretend the conclusion's false. That will generate a truth functional contradiction, and then we can say that, in fact, our assumption is not the case, right? So we love that. All right, now, what do we know about a conjunction? A conjunction is true when and only when each of the conjuncts is
True.
true. So if you're saying, as we are here, that we have a true conjunction, it follows that. If it's true that both Raz's and Mia's dogs are named Ella, right? It follows that Raz's dog is named Ella. It follows that Mia's dog is named Ella.
Right.
Mhm.
So both are true.
Right, so if both are true, it follows that.
Oh, I was thinking R had something to do with it, so I was like, trying to figure out how there was no conjunction with R, so
Oh, no, right, but remember, what do you want? You want a,
contradiction.
okay, and so we're going to achieve that by
So
making
something-
explicit.
So
So
you
where's your
use-
implicit contradiction?
this is
Let's
for
pull stuff off to the
chapter
side.
P, Q.
Got notes on
Or P.
translations in
P
the
not
front.
P and not P.
And then
Alright, so
examples of
if
these,
we
and then
can get
examples
not
of this.
P
Of course.
and P,
But you don't
Yeah,
need
we've
it's
got
okay,
a
orange.
contradiction. So did Raz's point make sense that
Yeah.
look, you are trying to generate a contradiction, right? And right now, the contradiction, not P and P, is implicit.
Yeah, we had set to
Got-
separate everything up. and-
Right, so
Yeah.
then, so let's keep working backward. If I have Ella Shush, right? If I do this, then I know that I'm going to need to
get P on this
dismantle,
one.
so do you wanna get Q first, right?
Mhm.
So I dismantled Q.
So you only need one of the first ones, so I don't have to have not P in my subproof. I only need to have Q. I can assume which side I want.
I wanna adjust your language just a little bit, right? I know I can sometimes be sloppy, so I'm particularly sensitive to it because I do it myself. You're structuring subproof,
Mhm.
or as Chris likes to call it, your master subproof,
Mhm.
is going to involve the dismantling of each side of the conjunction
I'm eventually going to need not
Right.
P though.
in order to generate the.
So that's where you got. Oh, okay. That's where
Right.
the not P down there.
So assume R now.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Where
saying.
does Q come from?
Conditional and then.
Where does Q come from?
From conjunction elimination.
But
number
conjunction
one.
elimination. Okay.
Yeah, you know,
One and
you
a-
know, you can't pull off the left side of a conditional.
Well, did it?
So we've got the following. If Pierce College is in Woodland Hills, then Pierce College is in San Fernando Valley. So Pierce College is in Woodland Hills.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no can do. So conjunction elim, right? Line 1. Now, there we go. Conditional elim. How many lines to cite? 2.
2, 5, and no.
2
wait,
and
2
5. Good.
5, yeah.
Is there 2 and 4?
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
2 and 4 too.
Sorry, yeah. 2 and 4. Okay, now another conditional elim.
3 and
3 and
3 and
5. Now we've got 5. From where did you derive line 7?
that's
Elimination of
and
number
and
conjunction.
Yeah, another conjunction elimination. And then finally, you guys see your contradiction intro, right? 6 and 7.
Mhm.
And then line 9, negation intro, 3 through 8. What do we think? Okay,
you're
so
assuming
now
the
what I'd
opposite.
like to do is take these
Same
arguments,
You're
but
assuming the
put them
opposite
into
of not
quantifier
before,
notation.
then
Okay?
you're going all the way to number.
Okay, so you're exactly right. We had our truth functional, centric argument. All I've done now is generalize. I've said, hey, I am going to assume that all P's are Q's, every R and S is a P, everything is R, therefore all S's are Q's. So now let's just talk strategy. we use the same strategy orientation as we've been using. Namely, look at the conclusion, right? So mechanics, when your conclusion is a universal with a conditional as the main connective or the only connective, you set up universal intro. So you're going to assume, and I'm just grabbing the name A, you're going to assume that A is S. You're going to derive the claim that A is Q, so you can say, look, since I've got an arbitrarily assumed name, it means that anything that I could say about S, I say about Q. Okay, so universal S arrow Q. Every S is Q, all S are Q for every X. If X is S, then X is Q. Now, remember what we were working on yesterday as a way to remind us of how we proceeded. I didn't do this too much today, but remember what we're setting up so when we get there, we don't have to say, what did I do here? So say universal intro from 4 to, we'll find out the line number. Okay?
This is the other sheet.
Right, this is the one you do actually have, but this you want as well, because remember quantifier logic includes propositional logic elements. Specifically, we're talking about the truth functional rules. So what do we want to do? So look at your rule sheet, is there any restriction on removing your universals?
No.
No, so let's just eliminate, eliminate, eliminate. Now, you may say, I don't want to eliminate all at once, but I'm just going to do it, get it out of the way.
Might as well.
Right, might as well.
I think I gave you my sheet by accident when I gave you the test.
Oh,
Can I get it?
yeah, of course.
More about
So, now I just have to find it though. It's in here somewhere. I think it's actually toward the bottom. Okay, so we've eliminated one.
So you don't have to do anything to remove the universal, you just drop them down?
Yeah, remember what the universal says. The universal says everything. So whatever property we're talking about, whatever class we're talking about, when we eliminate the universal, because the scope is exhaustive, we're saying since everyone or everything, therefore anyone I could name, right? We're not restricted. We don't have to assume a name because of the aforementioned exhaustion, right? If everyone in the room loves logic, then I can pick any name I want. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so we eliminate. Let's do it again. As Chris says, why not?
R next conjunction is, or A. PA.
Again, elimination, but this time from 2.
I don't get how you get the numbers. Like
Well, I'm
4
saying that it'll be 4 through whatever we end with. So what I did when I set up my structuring subproof, I said, okay, remember what we are doing here is a universal intro subproof, and line 4 sets it off.
Yeah.
like for
Yeah.
yeah. I
Yeah.
just got it right now.
Yeah.
I didn't get it.
So look at that. You see how you have in the conclusion, universal. Universal. Over there, you also have the universal.
Well, it's kind of the same thing, right?
Yeah, universal intro. It's just with the conditional. You have a conditional in there also.
Yeah.
You
that's
good?
why- So
Okay,
We're gray, Mia.
I'm delighted to hear that.
This is what you said.
So right, we're done with lines 1, 2, and 3,
So
right? We
what
just
she's
don't need to
doing
look at them anymore.
Is she's assuming
Right?
SA.
Now, I'm hoping that you
She's
see
giving- 'cause
how we're
if you
gonna get
assume
Q.
anything, you can assume
You see it, yeah?
Yeah.
Good job, Natalia.
So then from
Omar,
there, she can derive-
Kevin,
she can
what do you
bring
think?
down all of
Chris?
those
You just
Javier?
separate rule
you break up
that
the
says that you have to
conditional.
do anything in the middle.
but how do we break up the
To remove
conditional?
the
If
universal.
only there were some sort of
So from
rule
1,
where you
she's
can
moving
combine
down
two
to 5.
things into
Without-
one.
Yeah, go back to
She's
your
moving
truth
that
functional
down without
rules.
the universal and
You need to
from 3
make this
6.
conjunction, don't you?
That's how she's getting all those
So conjunction intro.
So
Yeah.
conjunction
So
intro,
5
we're gonna
comes from number
conjoin
1, and she's
line
removing
7
the
and
universal
line
because
4.
there's no restrictions here.
That's why it's.
That's why it's
Conjunction
universal
intro.
only number 1.
7 and 4,
Come on, now, please.
and then what does that get us? Chris, you're exactly right, that gets us P. So that's going to be conditional elim 6 and 8. You saw it, right, Natalia?
So for number 4, it's you're assuming the right or left side of the conditional.
So we've inferred line 10 from lines
From lines
5 and 9.
Yeah, 5 and 9 by elimination.
And then now, so Rachel was saying, hey, when you're setting up this universal intro, you have this 4. Now we know how many lines it took. It's 4 through 10. So how are we with this one? Do we want to do the same thing? I know the board's a mess right now. How about over here? Want to do the same thing over here?
Sure.
I'd
Okay.
like to.
Okay, so I'm going to leave.
Wait, really?
We all go
All right, so I'm going to leave this up, but let's just go ahead and work our quantifier.
Your dogs are like cats.
All right, so, okay, let's do this. Let's stick with our universals for right now.
Oh, hello.
Thank you, Mom.
You can't have my bagel, I'll bake it.
We gotta talk to her about some stuff. There ain't no rush. She'll be done in a second. She will. So then finish this proof. We'll call it. Yeah, we're all friends here. What, you got somewhere to be, Mr. Busy?
Was it P? No, it's R, sorry.
What?
Okay. So all I've done again, I'm sticking with our universals. Let's read this together.
So how do you,
For every x,
how do you like
x is not a p, but it is a q. Or you could say everything is not a p, but is a q. Or you could say both, right? I mean, there are ways you can articulate this. Line 2 says,
are you one of those
if
people who drinks
every x is a q, then if it's an r, it's a p. And our conclusion, notice it's a universal with the negation, right? So the conclusion says nothing is r. Nothing is r. Kevin, Chris, what are you thinking? Yeah, so how do we work this? We know that we want what?
That's literally one of the
negation
problems.
intro. You want a contradiction.
We want a contradiction so that we can do what?
It's not a hard
So that you
problem.
can get not R
Because you assume
Well,
or not R.
maybe I'm misunderstanding what you're after. Here's what I'm thinking you're thinking. You're saying, well, let's assume it's not the case.
So you're assuming not R. Wait, so
That's what I took you to be going for.
No, I was assuming R instead of not R. Like R of it, I was doing the same thing that you did with the last
you
one.
nest yourself
Oh,
Or
okay.
not the last one. I mean
The equivalent in terms
that
of,
one. You see right there?
Oh, okay.
I'm
Well,
doing the
so but if
same-
you want to do
same
negation intro with your universal, right? Then you would assume it's not the case that everything is not.
So you have to
Get a
assume-
contradiction, get out. What's another option though?
Connor said assume A.
Why would you do
Oh.
it like that? That's gonna be so much work, Mia.
Well,
I'm just trying to figure out what
because if you're setting up negation intro.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I apologize. So no, I was right originally. If
Oh
you're
my
setting
God.
up negation intro, don't worry, I'll edit this part out. The cluster will be edited out. So if you're doing just a straight negation intro like you did in the propositional right proof, this is what you get, right? Then it's not the case that, right?
What?
And you should not
And
do
then
that though,
it's-
because you're gonna have to.
Yeah, we've never done
You have to
something like
do a mini universal intro within your. It's not.
Yes,
It's too much work.
and it may be too much work, but if Raz wants to do negation
Okay.
intro, then that's what you would do. Now let's think of something else. We're going to remember with this Kevin. This goes all the way back to your awesome question about why we just assume a name. right? We assume a name and we're hoping to make the following predication. A is, assume there's this thing A. If we can infer from that that A is not R, since A is randomly chosen, nothing is R. So this is universal intro. From 3 to we don't know what. This goes back to Rachel's question. I know, you guys are being super patient. Hold on.
I forgot
Yeah.
my question.
Pardon?
I forgot my question.
Why is
Assumptive.
he's the aggressive?
Because
Too far.
we are trying
That's
to
what
prove
I'm
that
not
A
doing, 'cause
does
you
not
always
have this
start
property.
fights. You've always been on the
You're just
gang.
assigning
You
A
didn't
as,
start the fight.
as name.
That's the
Think
rule
about
of
it this
getting
way.
a fight.
And this is actually, I hope,
People who pick on thinking who these
helpful to thinking about the arbitrarily chosen name. If I say Pat, there's this individual named Pat. Your sort of default question historically would be, oh, Pat is a gender neutral name. I don't know if I should predicate of Pat, right? The male pronoun or the female pronoun. And now today we're much more comfortable with realizing, well, maybe we're not talking about a binary, right? So I've got this name Pat. I don't know what I should say of Pat vis-a-vis Pat's sex or gender identification. So it's just a name. I'm trying to prove that A is not R. Here's, remember, if we're talking mechanics, when your conclusion is a universal, set up universal intro. Unless you want to do negation intro, right?
Wait, when what?
When your conclusion is a universal, set up universal intro. That's what we did here, that's what we did here, that's what we do here. Look at each. There are two versions of universal intro. All right, now, Chris, we're ready to do what you want, which is to eliminate. And I'm just going to peel off, Ella, quiet. I'm just going to peel off the quantifiers and replace the variables with A.
Oh, so you could just drop it.
Okay, same thing for line 5, so universal elim from 2. Now, I think you're seeing, what am I going to do? What am I going to do to line 4?
Line 4, you're gonna dismantle, right? So conjunction elim.
Now what am I going to do?
Dismantle the conditional.
If,
Bring down the RA.
because you're about to need to assume R.
But how could you just dismantle it like that? Don't you need?
Because you have QA on
You have
6.
Q
I have Q where?
right there, line 6, and you got Q from 4.
Yeah, but she just dismantled
6
that
and
one.
5.
Yes, you did.
How
Because you got
could-
rid of
how
Q.
could-
No, puppy.
We have Q, so we can get rid of the conditional.
If we have Q, then we have RA. P from 5.
Now notice what we didn't do here. We were spending a lot of time talking about what strategy we're going to use. Notice what we didn't do. We didn't say we didn't say, hey, if my goal is negation R, how do I generate negation R?
You gotta assume it.
Negation intro. Now you get your negation intro. Okay? Alright, so hold on.
No,
Oh, so we're not done with
that's how we do it. It's just you forgot that it's the subgroup.
No, here, well,
No, yeah, of course, there is.
So
It's
you're
funky,
saying
that
that
makes
my
sense.
way would have been hell?
no. You could have, no. You could have done this earlier, but it's fine how it
P
is.
of A?
Existential.
Nah, yeah, you're right. Never mind. I'm right. It's universal. Yeah.
Yeah, gee, Connor.
I dropped the ball right there.
Scott, you totally dropped that. I'm just shocked.
Thought I had it, but I didn't have it.
Alright, hold on. I'm getting out of your way in a half second. Okay. Let me get out of your way. Yeah, you
Bring
did.
down the PA and
You
the
did.
contradiction, that's fine?
Yep,
Yes,
yeah, that's
you
it, you
did.
have to, yeah.
In the at the separate.
But you did universal intro for the
At
other
six,
one.
that's what you did.
Yeah, see, she eliminated
That's
the
because
conjunction to
of the
get
nature
Q,
of
and then
the
she
rule.
eliminated it again to get 10.
Again,
Because of the conclusion?
How could she
It's
eliminate
It's the
if she
nature
doesn't-
of the rule.
Then that's it. So
The
you could
rule
assume
set-
you
look
have
at your
R,
rule
so you
sheet.
can
The rule
eliminate
says
conditional at
When
7.
you're when you want to
Because if there's
achieve,
R nowhere else, you assume you have R.
I've been saying when your conclusion
So you
is,
can
but
eliminate the
strictly
conditional.
speaking, when you
Whoa.
want to generate a universal conditional,
Gotta look at
That's
the
what you
rule
do.
sheet, man.
When you wanna what?
generate,
That's okay.
prove a universal conditional, that's what you do. When you want to,
Conditional.
yes. Oh, what the heck was that? Jeez. Alright, now hold on.
Oh, like,
So I'm going to do the following.
Is that
Here's
actual-
another way to
I know nothing
proceed.
about latches, man.
Okay, so
I got a nice
Guys,
watch, but it's
here is
I got a nice watch, but ain't no brand.
Right.
It's just like an old 50s.
earlier I think you were saying something like,
Does
well,
it look right here? Hey, it's
oh
not-
no, sorry, let me rephrase, sorry. So when we know that our conclusion, right, in this case the conclusion of our structuring subproof is the negation, we would set up
Got that.
negation intro. We didn't do that over here because we were sort of churning out inferences from our premises. It wasn't until we got to line 7 that we said, oh, wait a second, I need to generate my negation RA. How do I do that? Oh, I'm going to have to use negation intro.
No, Professor,
What do you think?
back on this one, you didn't cite the rest of that. So I
We-
cited it.
We will, we will.
Oh, well, okay, I just
It's
one more
not
thing
the
citing, so
Yeah.
Like,
wanna
you
make
know,
sure-
you know
But I
they
wanna
have
make
the-
sure that
the
everybody
stealing
sees that this is
projection
just
thing.
Yeah,
I
a
thought we
way
had-
of taking what starts at line 8 and
Yeah,
moving it up.
it's-
Okay.
So we'll do this one too. Okay, so line 8 is an assumptive step.
I don't get why
You
we
really
added
do.
a new subgroup.
Hold on, we'll talk about that.
Sometimes it really do.
Yeah,
like
we,
that.
well, no, we're gonna cite and justify and then we can explain. Line 8 is an assumptive step. Line 9 is what?
Conditionally then.
Conditionally limb and,
Oh,
Say thank you.
yeah,
That's it, right?
remember, so Chris, just remember that your conditional limb is always a 2-line,
For taking off
citation.
alcohol, I think.
9 is, or I'm sorry, 10 is
Or not conditional,
conjunction limb.
Conjunction.
I know. Well, you can say and a limb if you want. Conjunction limb
Yeah.
Really?
from 4.
It's the only person-
11 is the
Contradiction.
contradiction.
9 and 4.
Oh my god.
Contradiction
Video
intro.
you showing
9
that.
and 10.
9 and, oh yeah, you're right, 9 and 10. Thanks, Natalia.
Where's the wing? Let me see the full body.
Look, right?
I bet.
Chris, yeah.
I get it.
Yes.
And then we're out. So
ways.
Rachel, the short answer to your
Listen, I'm
question
smart,
is,
but I ain't
we
that
set
smart.
up
You
this
gotta help me
subproof
out.
because we needed to prove that A is not R. So line 12 is negation intro from, am I right that it's 8 to 11, guys?
Yes.
And then we already said universal intro, and this was 3 through 12. And I know that I'm writing, I've got stuff in the way, but do you see that?
How fast you go?
Can you see my lines that are a little wonky?
That's
So
good.
last part is 8 to 12.
Wait, you can drift.
3 through 12.
3 through
You got
12.
drift brake?
Yeah, so now let me offer you this, same premises, right? Same original structuring subproof. 4, and then we're doing the same thing again.
Oh, I guess there's no one in there. My brother says You don't think you're better?
It's the same line.
Okay. So, I think that visually you might prefer the one on the left, but can you see that the two are saying the same thing, yeah? So, remember, here's, in my view, this is the difference between the approaches. Here, when you know that you want to achieve a negation, you're gonna set up, right, working backward. We've been hammering away the backward working strategies. If you know you want negation RA, you need to set up negation intro. That's the left version. The version on the right was working forward until we realized, oh my gosh, we need to generate negation RA, but all we have right now is RA as an antecedent.
And it's the basic same citations, just different line numbers.
Yeah. Yeah. My preference is this one, just because I want to keep forcing myself work backward. But you're, as Chris just points out, you're getting the same thing in either case. All right. What do we think? Can we do one more? You know what I probably need to do, Rachel?
No.
Is
6 and 4. 6 and 4. Like the line 6 and 4.
yeah, hold
So-
on just a sec. So here are your connections. Does that help?
So you used conjunction elim for 6 QA.
Correct.
And
As
then-
well as
But it's for line that goes for line 4. So when you go back to line 4, it says universal elim. But like, so I was looking at universal elim, and like, wouldn't 6 be universal elim too?
Nope.
Why?
because the claim at line 1 is a universal covering covering a conjunction. So now we've eliminated, right? 4 to
Eliminated what?
we've gone from universal to a name,
Okay.
right? And then here it is again, now the conjunction elimination.
Yeah, so why is it not, I don't understand why it's not, universal elim.
Well, take a look at 1 and 4,
Yeah. 1 and 4.
right?
Yeah.
4 is the instantiation of 1, right? 6 is not the instantiation of 1.
Okay, that's why it's that one over there, the very first one. Because like it says, like you can tell right there, there's a conjunction between
Right.
P and Q, and
Right.
then that would be like 4.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because it's not universal anymore.
Correct.
Because it's already like.
Yes, been instantiated. Yep. All right.
Is there any other day we're gonna be able to like?
That's what
I
Apple's
don't
gonna
want
start
to
doing.
take
They're
exam
selling
3
AirPods, but
on
you can
test
attach them to
day
your
unless
phone
it's
so you don't lose them.
The cool thing to do is like.
Rachel, we have to have a conversation
like
with
no,
so I want to accommodate everybody. Like in other words, okay. So I want you guys to work on this one while I guess Ramton and Connor and Andrew have something you want to talk.
Yeah,
We're talking about that. Okay.
Let's go.
All right. Hold on just a sec. Let me. Is exactly right that when you have an existential in your premises, 99.9, right? You are going to eliminate it. Where the goal is this sentence, right? So it's going to look like this. We're going to assume that A is not a C. We want to generate the claim something is not a T, so that we can say, look, when we assumed that the existential claim, right? Sorry, let me restate that sentence. When we said, let's assume that since something is not C, it's A that's not C. I don't know if it's A that's not C, but let me assume that it's A, right? From that assumption, I've proven that something is not a T, so existential elim, something is not a T from 2 and then 3 through we don't know what yet. So this will be 3. Kevin, what are you thinking?
So before the last line, it's like,
Before the last line. Oh, so you're going to, so if I'm understanding you correctly, you're going to have this, right? In order to generate the sentence, something is not T, I need to, so existential intro, right? I need to have the sentence A is not T.
oh, okay.
Now, notice what you're in a great position to do. Ella, wait. Notice what you're in a great position to do. Eliminate the universal
Yeah, that's right. Sorry, my brain is.
at line 1. I know, it's we've been working for a while. This gets tiring. And what do you do with your disjunction?
You eliminate it.
Disjunction elim.
You eliminate it.
It's not room though.
Sure, we'll make room. It'll be awesome.
So if you have an existential in your
You're right, Kevin.
premises,
Hold on. Hold on, Rez. Don't say anything yet, because I gotta fix this up.
You don't want
alright,
this.
I'm keeping it in my mind.
You don't want this. No, no, you do not want that.
Yeah, we made it work, Kevin. Sorry, Raz. What are you thinking?
So if you have an existential in your premises, you always want to eliminate it.
Yes.
Okay. So
I
was
mean,
thinking-
again, there are exceptions, but we're talking about hammering away at strategies so that we say this is just what we do. Kevin, what are you thinking? Rachel, what are you thinking?
How'd you get TA? If you from CA, you get negation TA, and then from TA you get TA.
Okay, so
How's that?
assume line 4 sets
Yeah.
off our disjunction elim. So
Right.
that means this is going to be disjunction elim, lines 4, 5 to 6, or sorry, 5 to 7, and then 8 to 9. So hold on, so this is 5, 6 is contradiction intro from 3 and 5. Kevin, there's a contradiction, and then immediately after that, so what is that?
Contradiction elim.
Contradiction elim from 6.
Yeah.
End subproof, start the next one at line 8. What are we doing from 8 to 9?
Reiteration.
Reiteration. And then 10, disjunction elimination.
No, but like from line 10, isn't 7 and 9 supposed to be TA?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why I did that.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say.
Oh,
Like,
I'm
okay.
sorry, thank you. Yeah.
What did we just change?
I don't know why I did, you know what, I think I do know why
Line
I did
7,
it.
it was not
Um,
TA. No, it's
No,
TA.
no. Wait, stop.
That was Johnny's.
Hold on. Hold on.
The goal is not TA, you have at least one thing that's not.
Right, so I was right,
So it is.
and, you know what it must have been? I see what I must have done. So, I think it was that, yeah, sorry. That's what you get when you don't write the premises down correctly.
Okay, what did we
So
do?
in
Okay.
front of every T, Chris,
So I did not.
put a negation, yeah.
Alright, line 4 has one too.
Do, thank you, Miguel. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
Yay, Kevin! Sorry, guys.
You said every time there's an existential in the answer, in the conclusion, or in the premise?
In the premises,
Then
and look at your-
it's 99.9% negate.
that you will, it's not, so when you look at your existential elim rule, when you have an existential, just like when you have a disjunction, the having of the existential, the assertion of the existential, the given of the existential sets off existential elim.
When it's in the premise, not
Yes.
conclusion.
Yeah, can you see that okay? I apologize that I screwed up on the negation there.
2. In,
What?
In number 12, how did you get 2 as existential elim and 3?
Look at your rule sheet.
Because
The existential sets off the, yes, yeah. Okay.